The dreaded vending machine. You stand before it, tasked with the ultimate decision. Decade-old donuts at B7 or empty calories at E4. Yummy. Let Walmart's low prices help you snack smarter with 5.3-ounce Oikos 000 Greek yogurt for $1 and 4 packs of Light and Fit protein shakes on rollback for $5. Smart Snacker 1, vending machine 0. Start strong, save big. Walmart.
CRV deposit fee and tax may apply.
Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio Waves of Healing. We are dedicated to communicate to you and provide you with information of being aware and keep open mind to alternative ways of healing, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. Are you living your optimal health? Are you interested in healing whatever blocks your life from achieving your heart's desire? We invite you to live your life with purpose by trusting your own intuition. Our mission is to awaken your awareness where you can listen to your own truth. We inspire you in connecting with your own spirit where the healing takes place and create a lifestyle filled with health, wealth, joy, and happiness. In Waves of Healing show, we'll bring you healers, spiritual teachers, self-growth, health and wealth-conscious personalities where they will answer all your questions. Today is Tuesday, October 20th, 2009. I'm your host, Leah Yekutiel, coming to you from Los Angeles, California, as I do every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm the author of the book, Making the Best of It. If you want to know more about my book, please visit my website at www.ilovemybreastcancer.com. All one word, ilovemybreastcancer.com. We have got a special guest for you today. Our guest is Michael Tamura, a celebrated spiritual teacher, clairvoyant, healer, visionary, and award-winning author of You Are the Answer. Michael J. Tamura awakens souls with compassion, humor, and wisdom. He heals thousands of people from around the world and helps guide them to their true destiny and life purpose. Michael believes that no matter the circumstances, everyone can find happiness and spiritual fulfillment if they just know how. Michael was born and raised in Japan, yet educated in America's schools. Michael has often spent a lifetime bridging gaps, not only between East and West, but also between men and women, young and old, mind and body, heart and soul. Today, Michael is revered around the world as a master teacher, life coach, visionary, healer, clairvoyant, and pioneer of spiritual healing and psychic development. His award-winning book, You Are the Answer, is highly celebrated, and his powerful seminars are booked long in advance as people flock to experience his unique, no pain, all gain approach and profound healing work. But I don't want to tell you any more about him because we are privileged to have Michael live on our show, who would answer all your questions if you have. You can call, and please help me welcome Michael. Are you there?
Yes, thank you very much. It's lovely to be on your show today.
Oh, thanks so much for being on my show. I'm so excited you cannot imagine. And I know you are very busy. I know you give seminars everywhere, and you write, and I know. And taking the time to be on my show to help some people, some other people, it takes a person like you to do that, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's, and shows like the one you have here is so important to get the awareness and information out to so many people all at once. So
yeah, that's my purpose, and
yeah.
That's why I bring people like you in order to help awaken, because we are all one, and we are all spirit, and
yes,
and that's what we want to connect with, and this is the source of our beingness.
Yes.
Okay. Now, my first question is,
yes,
what prompted you to write your book, You Are the Answer, with the subtitle Discovering and Fulfilling Your Soul's Purpose?
Yeah, it's a long story in a way, because my wife Raphael and I were on a rare winter vacation. We went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and as soon as we got to our motel, Raphael came down with a bad cold, so she was in bed and resting, and so then I was sitting there meditating and reflecting on, what I wanted to do, and next thing I had a very strong inner prompting from my guide that I needed to start writing my first book, and this was quite a few years ago. It took me 9 years actually to write and prepare the book for publication, and I actually wrote like 3 different books before this book was ready to be published. And during this time, I realized that the first one had to be one that inspires and guides people to realize that they need to start living as the immortal, limitless souls that they are. And to do this, I felt that everyone needs to understand the meaning of their purpose for being here on Earth and have some psychic or spiritual tools to better fulfill that purpose. I've often heard people complain that, gee, I wish I could have come here. We could have all been born with an instruction manual for life. but when I thought about it, well, we did come with an instruction manual. It's a complete instruction manual for living, but it's hidden inside each one of us. And I realized, we are the answer to our deepest prayers. What we ask for, we become. We are the living embodiment of everything that we've ever really asked for. And most people, I felt, didn't understand that. They keep on asking, and a lot of times feel like they're not getting what they asked for. But in truth, when we really examine deeply within ourselves, we are what we've asked for. And interestingly enough, in some of my research in writing this book, and I was looking for some quotes and things that I can find from other sources, and I found a Sufi saying, an old Sufi saying that says, God makes us out of our prayers. And I couldn't agree more wholeheartedly. And so as we ask, we open ourselves up to who we truly are. And at first, for most of us, we've gotten so far away from being our true immortal and divine selves as souls, and so we have to start to uncover what is the treasure that's buried inside of us. We cover ourselves up, we divide ourselves, we isolate ourselves from others, and we lose sight of what is, like you said, the oneness that is. Spirit is all one. And yet in the world, that's the last thing most people think about because everything looks very separate and everybody to themselves.
It's like I.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus we.
Exactly. And the way I like to put it is for those of us who knew about the when Sesame Street was really big for kids, and they had that. My favorite character was that Cookie Monster. Remember the Cookie Monster, the big blue Cookie Monster, and he used to go, "Me want a cookie, me want a cookie."
Me want a cookie, right?
Yeah, and that's us. That's our ego always going, me want something, me want something. It's all me, me, me. And that divides us into me and you and me and them and us against them. And when it really boils down to it, all the wars in the world throughout the ages have been fought on religious differences. Our relationship with the divine, our relationship with the oneness that is, has been the ultimate question, where one person says, no, my God says this, and then the other person says, no, my God is better than your God.
But it's only one God.
Exactly. God is one, and that
That's
oneness.
right.
And so,
and I believe that all this religion is the same thing, that's just different rituals.
Exactly. And I feel that when you take away the dogma and all the things that people added to the original teachings of any great master, spiritual master, upon which religions have been based, when you get down to the real teachings, they all say the same things, and they say it to different cultures and different time periods of people. And if you learn to put it in the correct context, each one fills a certain need of people of that time and that area and that type of culture, and it all keeps on pointing to that same oneness. And so,
exactly.
A lot of times people want to know about being psychic. Well, what does being psychic have to do with spiritual healing or becoming spiritually enlightened or fulfilled? And it has a lot to do with it, because the term psychic just really means of the soul. It just means, it's a very simple term that means of or pertaining to the soul. So then, once we realize we each are immortal souls, and we are incarnated into these physical forms we call bodies, and we're here to learn and grow. And we're here to become, in a sense, become what we decide are the best to become. And in our becoming and becoming more and more and more, and this and that and the other thing, and as we become something, we look back and reevaluate, what did we become? And sometimes what we discover we've become we don't like, and we go, oh no, I don't want to stay this way, I want to change. And other times we examine what we've become and we decide, oh, this is very good, I would like to become more like this. Such as when we find ourselves being extra compassionate, and so many things open up because of our compassion, then we might look back and go, oh, that was great, that was wonderful. And so then we become interested in developing that even more. And so over the course of lifetimes and lifetimes as souls, we develop various aspects that, if you really look at, everything we really like, everything we decide are truly good, in the core of our hearts, we decide this is a very good thing, we discover that all of those things we decide are good are all part of oneness.
Yeah.
All aspects of oneness, and this leads us to becoming more and more the oneness that we are. It leads us more and more to the spirit, the true spirit that we are. And that is truly the path of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know, you are a healer. You've healed yourself. You've been instrumental in helping other people find ways of healing, sometimes called alternative, but ways of healing. And essentially through your radio show, you're inviting a lot of people to become open to and discover there's many ways of healing and many roads that lead to the oneness within.
Correct.
And even the term healing really means, restoring to wholeness or restoring to oneness, which means when we're sick, when we're ill, when our relationships are not going well, when our businesses are not going well, when something is not working, well, that means we're not one. We're divided somehow. And so then how do we find how to relinquish those things that cause or create division within us and between us? And as we discover this and move in that direction, we start to find more and more of that true oneness. So the psychic part, the development of, all of us, I think many, many people who even just 10 years ago never would have considered anything psychic are starting to go, wait a minute, what is this? And that's because all over the world, humanity is being challenged, is being pushed to discover their inner beingness. And which means, automatically, that means psychic. It means when we're discovering who we are as souls, that means our psychic awareness and psychic abilities are going to start turning on a lot more. And so that is the discovery. The psychic development just means the discovery of ourselves as souls being the limitless and eternal beings, and that we're incarnated here in these mortal, limited bodies to learn and grow, to incorporate our complete beingness, to really embody who we are.
Yeah, I just want to go back to You Are the Answer of your book. And you mentioned that you ask the questions. How a person, individual who wants to get the answer, ask what kind of question do they have to ask in order to get the right answer?
Yes, that's a good question. Before, we're so used to just asking questions that just we think are questions we have. But first of all, we need to kind of let go of intellectual questions that just go around in circles.
Right.
And so the first question I generally ask myself is, okay, what is it that I'm wanting or I'm needing the answer to give me or do for me? So that's where I start. So then if I start there, then I have to really clarify, okay, what am I asking for here? And when I know what I'm asking for, then from that I can ask the question. For example, if it could be as simple as I'm uncomfortable and I'm not feeling good and I'm uncomfortable, then instead of going, what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I not happy? And all these kinds of questions that we generally tend to start asking without expecting any answers. We just keep on asking them, and it doesn't do any good. It actually does more harm because every time we ask, we receive. So many people don't realize if you if I watch someone on a clairvoyant level doing this, every time they're going, why me? Why is this happening? Why isn't this going? Why doesn't this work? Why do I feel this way? Every single time they ask that, they're getting answers. But the answers, number one, they're not paying attention to, and number two, the answers aren't not necessarily doing them any good. How many reasons do we want for certain things to be happening? If, for example, like my example of if I'm feeling uncomfortable, when I really ask myself, what do I want the answer to give me or do for me, I find, I would like to be comfortable. I would like to feel better.
Okay.
So
instead of saying why I'm not comfortable, the answer would be, well, I would like to be comfortable.
Yes.
And how do I get there?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So then once I ask, I would like to be more comfortable, and what do I need to do to be more comfortable, or what is it that I need to become more aware of to have more comfort? Then the answers that I do get work. They help me, and I find that I'm starting to sometimes just instantly I feel more comfortable, but other times, if it's a little more involved, I find that it leads me to asking more questions, that each step of the way I start to find more and more comfort, and I'm more relaxed, and I'm more at peace, and so forth and so on. But it could be also about any kind of questions regarding, my relationship to someone else, or my business, or anything that one has a question of. If first they ask themselves, okay, what would I like the answer, when I get the answer to the question I ask, what would I like the answer to give me or do for me? And once I can answer that question,
this is an amazing approach.
Yes, it's very simple, but even for myself, I found that when I ask that question first, instead of jumping into asking all kinds of questions of other people or of myself, I find that that's where most of the problem is I don't know what I'm asking for. I wasn't clear myself. Either I was upset about the situation or condition I'm in or whatever, and so I'm just throwing out questions. And when you do that, if you look back at it, you'll find that so often when you're just throwing out questions, or even easier to see is if you're around somebody who's asking those kind of questions, and somebody who's really angry or who's really upset, and they start asking questions and questions and questions, but if you notice, all their questions are blaming someone else.
Uh-huh.
And so many times, why me, God? Why this and why that? And why is this happening to me? And what's wrong with me? Even
why do I attract this kind of people?
Exactly. And if you look, the reason they're not really getting answers that can do a lot of good for them is that they're in a place where they're coming from in asking the question isn't a good place. They're coming from a place of division. They're coming from a place of judgment. They're coming from a place of expectation, demanding, and especially they're coming from a place of blaming someone. Even if they're blaming themselves, they're still blaming someone.
Right.
And so when you're in a place of blaming someone or something, well, you're not really going to get the answer, because the answer really is about you.
Exactly.
And it's when we blame someone else, by doing that, we are dividing ourselves even further than we were. Why were we angry enough to blame somebody else in the first place? We were already divided. And then when we, in our anger, we blame something or someone, even if it's blaming ourselves or blaming our bodies or blaming our situation, we're dividing ourselves even further. And in order to heal and in order to come to some kind of resolution of wholeness, resolution basically means healing, and healing is becoming whole. Then we need to let go of divisions and ask questions that will lead us more to oneness, lead us more to wholeness, rather than lead us more away from it. That's another way to look at, if a question is going to serve you correctly or not is by asking this question in this way, is it dividing you more or is it making you more whole?
More oneness. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've always felt that answers were actually secondary. The questions are much more important.
Yeah, it depends what you ask.
Exactly,
Yeah.
is what you end up receiving.
Oh.
And so often, we might think that we're asking the right question, but we didn't really think about those questions enough, and we're not recognizing that we're not coming from a neutral place. We're not coming from a place of compassion. We're not coming from a place of good humor. Humor is very, very important in asking important questions. A lot of people comment that they hear me laughing a lot because I'm in trouble a lot.
No, we also know that laughter heals.
Exactly. So then it's not only that laughter heals. I feel that until we're happy with ourselves and until we can start to laugh a little bit, we're not going to make any positive changes.
Exactly, because it's also have to start with each individual of us.
Yes.
With the inner self.
Exactly.
And spread it around.
Exactly. Because whatever is bothering us, whatever is challenging to us, whatever is being a problem to us, well, where do we experience it? We don't experience it in someone else or someplace else. We experience it within ourselves.
Oh, wow.
It's just like on a very, very simple level when we ask ourselves, okay, where am I seeing what I'm seeing? I see the wall, or I see a picture on the wall, I see the desk, I see the telephone. Where am I seeing that? I'm seeing it inside my own self. And then my brain tells me, in a sense, that it's out there. The wall is, 10 feet across the room, and the desk is in front of me, and the telephone is over there, kind of a thing. But where am I experiencing it? I'm not experiencing it out there. I'm experiencing it inside.
It's like whenever you look in the mirror, you see yourself.
Yes, and I'm not in the mirror. The mirror is just a reflection. Where I'm seeing that is inside myself. And so you can expand that and realize that every experience, everything I feel, everything I see, everything I hear, all happens inside of me. Where I'm experiencing it is within myself. So then, if I start to believe that it's happening out there, and I have to change something out there in order to change my experience, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen because it has to start from
inside of myself.
Oneself. Yeah.
Yes. So then, when I realize, okay, everything everything I like and everything I don't like that I'm experiencing, I'm still experiencing inside myself. So those things that I don't like that I'm experiencing in myself, the first step I have to take is realize, I'm experiencing inside myself, and what I truly desire is to change what I'm experiencing. So, and so often we get caught up in, okay, I want to change the world so I can experience something different. No. If I change how I'm experiencing something, then the world will change.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then the question becomes, okay, how do I change what I'm experiencing within myself? And when we start to look at that, we discover that, I'm holding so much anger about the situation that I'm hurting, and literally it's just not a good feeling, or I'm blaming somebody so much, and I'm not about to forgive them. I'm just going to hold on to this, vengeance, and I got to get even, and I got to, do it. I got to make them suffer as much as they made me suffer.
But they don't suffer. You are the person who... Yeah.
And they might be going out there and having a great time, making lots of money, and seemingly enjoying life. And yet, who's suffering? I am. If I hold those thoughts, then I'm the one who's going to be experiencing those thoughts. I'm the one who's experiencing the anger, the blame, the hurt, everything. So no matter how much I go after the other person who so-called did it to me, I'm still going to be suffering.
Yeah. Because I'm going to be the sufferer, not him, because he does not know anything about my vengeance or whatever.
Exactly, what you're going through. Yes.
He does not know. It's all my feelings.
Yes.
So, therefore, I have to change inside myself in order to experience whatever I want to experience in somebody else.
Exactly. And one of the things that I find people commonly do is, the analogy I have for this is kind of funny. A stereo system with the tuner, receiver, and then the speakers and everything.
Yes.
Well, if you were to hear music coming out of the speakers, of course that's where it comes out, and you're hearing the music, and let's say you don't like that music, would you go kick the speakers to try to change the song?
Or change the dial.
Yeah, or what we do is change the dial in order to change the song, not change, try to do something to the speaker. Well, that's
a great example.
Yeah, the funny thing, if I put it that way, everybody laughs and says, of course, that's ridiculous. But that's what most of us do most of the time with our feelings.
Yeah.
What we feel is like the sound coming out of the speakers. And so then if I don't like what I feel, for most people, they go, okay, if I don't like what I feel, I'm going to try to change my feelings, and they start to attack their feelings or suppress their feelings or try to do something to their feelings. That's just like kicking the speaker to try to change the song. But instead, if they learn, in order to change my feelings or change any part of my experience that I'm experiencing inside, I have to change the channel. I have to turn that dial and tune into a different frequency, tune into a different broadcast.
And we can do it.
And it's very simple.
Yeah. Okay. Can you explain how a person can do it? But before that, let me just say, we have a caller here.
Okay.
I want to tell you, the caller, please, that you are listening. We'll get to you. If you have any questions to ask Michael, we'll get to you. So be patient, okay? All right. I'm sorry, Michael. Continue.
Yes. Well, changing the channel is very simple. It's even simpler than changing the channel on our stereo, because on our stereo we have to physically go over there and turn the knob.
Yes.
But changing the channel within ourselves is a matter of decision. It's a matter of choice. So the choice is, gee, I don't like how I'm feeling. Do I really, again, back to your question of what's the right question to ask? What are the questions we should be asking? And so it's a question and answer kind of a situation here. To change the channel, I have to ask myself, okay, what's going on within me? Okay, let's say I've been really hurt by this person and what he or she did, and to me or to someone else or in the world or whatever, and I'm very upset. Okay, well, the upset is within me. That person can go scot-free. That person could be having a great time, but I'm the one who's suffering. I'm the one who's upset, and I don't like what I'm going through. So that feeling and that experience of the upset, the hurt, and then the anger and whatever, frustration that's broiling inside of me, that's like, gee, I can't stand the music or the noise coming out of the speakers, so I better change the channel. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the song is, where is this upset coming from? The other person might not be upset at all, but the upset is coming from the decisions I made. I decided he's the one who did it to me, and this was intolerable, and what an insult or what an assault to me or whatever. And so those are all my decisions that I made. So I have to look at it and go, okay, is it more important for me to keep my blame of this person, keep my pride and keep my
Grudges.
all the grudge and everything, and feel this way? Or am I more interested in healing myself? Am I interested in being at peace? Am I interested in having happiness and experiencing joy of living and being here and going on with my path, fulfilling my soul purpose for being here? Then I have to come to terms with myself and go, okay, yeah, I want to hold on to this and I want to beat that person up, but actually I'm tired of this. I want to feel better.
Actually, I'm beating myself.
Exactly, because the only person I'm beating up is myself.
Uh-huh.
The only person I'm making suffer more is myself. And
Right.
This is why a lot of people get angrier and angrier and really want to go after the other person, is because they're causing so much suffering in themselves, and they still think that unless the other person pays in some way, the suffering's not going to be relieved. But the truth of the matter is the suffering isn't going to be relieved until each of us who is experiencing that, decides, okay, it's far greater worth for me to feel better and be happy and have a life instead of holding on to this grudge and holding on to this blame and holding on to these expectations that they're supposed to do something for me. Right. And so the moment I make that decision, I mean, we all go through this from time to time, and any time I've come to that place, when finally I go, okay, this isn't working. I don't feel like feeling this way anymore, and I let go of it. That's called forgiveness. It's very simple. Forgiveness is not a thing we try to do. Forgiveness is a result more. In my way of thinking, forgiveness is much more a result of realizing. The minute I realize the truth of the matter, forgiveness is a given. It's non-issue anymore. I don't have to try to forgive somebody. It's forgiven. Because what forgiveness really is when we realize the truth, there's really nothing there to forgive anymore, because the truth doesn't hold on to anything.
Yeah.
It's only us that decide we got to hold on to this. We got to hold on to this. And the minute we go, hey, that's not true. Everybody can say I have to hold on to this, but I don't have to. If I let go of this, the minute I let go of it, it's gone. It's cleared up.
What a relief, huh?
What a relief. And once we let go of what is dividing ourselves from our wholeness, we become that much more whole. And when we experience the wholeness, or any greater degree of wholeness than where we are at, it not only feels so great, but it's bright, it's joyful, it's a celebration, and the last thing we even are concerned about is who did it to me.
Yeah, it's perfect. And I want to paraphrase something in your book that you're talking about forgiveness, that makes it so clear. And you're saying forgiving means that you are forgiving instead of against giving.
Yes.
And I love this. This makes it so clear. Forgiving versus against giving. And
yes.
this really explains so much. And every part of your book is something about making things so clear, how to reach inside of us,
yes.
and how to learn that we have it all inside of us. And I am so excited to read. And
I'm so glad.
Now, what does it mean to be clairvoyant? Can anybody be clairvoyant as you are? Because from what I read in your book, it's like you talk with people and you ask simple questions and you can read their minds. You can read what's happening inside them, and according to that, you can heal them.
Yes. Well, there's various kind of reading and looking into people, what I tend to do naturally is when I'm communicating with anyone, I'm looking at them, I'm seeing more of who they are as the immortal souls that they are.
Yeah.
So what, many people, when they relate to someone else, they first see the body and what the body looks like and what the body is doing, and they listen to the voice that comes out of the mouth, and that's
right.
all very body-oriented. But what I do is yes, I recognize the body, but I want to see beyond that. I want to see more into where someone really is as the spirit that they are. And for most everyone that I ever encounter, the soul that they are is so much bigger, so much more than what they're living in the physical right now.
Right.
And this is kind of true for all of us, even for myself and many others who are very aware. The only difference is I'm aware that there's a whole lot more to me than meets anyone's eyes. And so being aware of that myself, it's easier than someone who's not aware. That feeling that so many of us have had is nobody really sees me, nobody really understands me, nobody really hears where I'm coming from.
Uh-huh.
And that feeling often comes from the place where the person feeling it is not recognizing how much more there is to themselves, and they're not able to validate the soul, more of the soul that they are, and they're seeking other people to validate who they really are.
Right.
And when they don't get that, then it's a very, very lonely feeling, and it's a very big feeling of isolation, and that nobody sees them. Yet.
So how do you suggest that people would be more aware about their soul? Because actually the body is just a box or a house or a house for the soul.
Yes, it's like one of those big RVs, recreational vehicles that people live in and travel in.
Right.
So it's, but it's important because as souls we need the body, or else we have no incarnation.
Right.
And my favorite is what Jesus said 2,000 years ago. He said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." That to me is the concise definition of clairvoyance. Even though clairvoyance as a word literally means seeing clearly, well, he gives in that one sentence, he gives the meaning and the not only the definition of clairvoyance, but how to get there. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, means, okay, God is everything, God is all. So if we see God, we see all, well, that's the ultimate in clairvoyance, right? If we see everything.
Right.
But the first part of the sentence is the instruction. How do we learn to start seeing more of God?
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
How can we train ourselves to be able to see the soul, not just the body?
Yes. Well, he says, "Blessed are the pure in heart." Okay? Then, if you're pure in heart, you will see God. So the more we purify our own hearts, the more of divinity we start to see, and the soul is part of divinity, and we each are part of divinity. So then, if we begin to relinquish and let go of all the divisive thoughts and feelings that we tend to hold in our hearts, such as judgments and condemnation, competition, vengeance, blame, expectation, demands, all of those things that we hold inside of ourselves for one reason or another, the more we are able to let those go, the more we start making our heart pure and whole. Pure means whole. It's not divided. So if we were to see God, which is the all and the whole, then that would make us a complete clairvoyant. And each one of us, whether we know it or not, are somewhere along that path. Some of us see more of God, others of us see less of God. But everything we see is of God. And what happens, sometimes I'll be joking around and making fun of a lot of things, and somebody might get offended and go, gee, aren't you being a little sacrilegious? And which makes me laugh even more, because my idea of sacred, the reason sometimes I kind of make fun of what some people hold sacred, because I see that they're holding one thing sacred and everything else isn't. Well, it's only when we realize that on one hand nothing is sacred that we realize that everything is sacred, because the definition of sacred is the whole, the all. And how can we take away one part of the all and say this is sacred but not those? How can we say that I'm a spiritual being but not someone else? So everything is sacred. And so the only time I kind of make fun of it is if somebody decides this is sacred, I'm spiritual but you're not, or this thing is spiritual but that isn't. This is divine but that isn't. Then the very beginning of division starts right there. Is when somebody says this is whole but that isn't.
Michael, can you define what's the difference between spirituality and religion?
Well, the word religion has its base in a root that means binding. It really comes from, the word yoga?
Of course.
Yoga and religion really comes from a similar base root. They both mean union or binding to. The idea being, religion means what makes us unite with God, what binds us to God and to the all, and yoga means union with the all. And so both terms relate to oneness. It's kind of the path and the practices and the teachings that we have to learn to find, to discover, and realize our oneness with God. So spirit is that which is. In its ultimate, we can say God is spirit. Spirit is God. But we use spirit in many different ways. So spirituality, it means it's anything that has to do with spirit, the all, the oneness, or God. Religion is what do we need to unite with, get back together, restore our wholeness with God. But unfortunately, the term religion has had a very bad rap.
I know.
For many years. And why is it that so many so-called spiritual people are against religion? And it's because, traditional religion by and far have been very dogmatic, and religion has been used for political purposes, to control the masses and to control people's lives and so forth and so on. So then those who start to become more aware of their own true spirituality decide, okay, I'm against religion, or I don't want to have anything to do with religion. I'm only interested in spirituality. And when people make those kind of decisions, they're really not talking about the truth of religion. They're talking about religion as they have experienced it.
I see. Okay.
And that could be, their particular brand of religion, or it could be as limited as the priest that they grew up under and who they couldn't stand because the priest was very controlling and unloving and things of that nature. But that's just one person's experience. And then a lot of people may look at religion on a large scale and say, wow, look at what this religion has all the atrocities that this religion has committed toward humanity over the centuries.
Right.
And so then religion itself, the real truth of religion gets put into the same basket as what one religious person did or a certain religious organization did over a period of time, and that's not necessarily true. Religion is very important because that is the practice. That is our lessons and practice that we need, each of us. So it doesn't mean you have to be of a certain, religious organization. It just means each and every one of us has religion. Each and every one of us has a relationship with God. And part of our religious practice, if you will, or actually you can call it spiritual practice, part of our spiritual practice is to learn how to first recognize the relationship we have with God and start to uncover what is it. And every one of us already has a relationship with God. We just have to discover what it is, and in our seeking, we start to find out more and more about what this relationship has been always. Most of spiritual growth is, we've forgotten a lot of things, and we have to wake up and remember what already is.
Yeah. How can you explain also that when the soul incarnates into a body, some souls, they can remember past lifetimes.
Yes.
And some do not.
Yes. There's many different aspects of that. In the earliest stages for the soul's development, we generally decide not to bring in our awareness, a whole lot of awareness about past lives, because in the earlier stages of our development, we're still working very much on a karmic level. For a more beginning soul, if you will, going through their early stages of incarnating here, you'll find that their lives are defined by karma. That's why they don't have a lot of freedom. It's the people who generally feel like life is hard and then you die.
Right.
And that's because they're living a very karmic life where they don't feel like there's a lot of choice. Things happen to them. This happens and that happens and this happens because they're just going around the circle of karma, and they have to work all these things out. But as the soul progresses and evolves and matures and becomes a lot more aware, well, how they become aware is that the soul realizes, oh yes, if I caused this, then I have to fulfill it. I have to resolve it. I have to, complete it. And so when we become further along, it's because we've taken care of all the karmic levels, and we're not creating as much negative karma as we have when we were unaware. And so then, when we're doing things karmically, we can't really afford to be aware of, gee, I killed the person who's, or my mother in this lifetime killed me as a soldier in another lifetime, and therefore that's part of the agreement that she has to give me back life. Well, if I knew that when I'm being born and I'm not that aware, it might be very, very difficult to have that mother as a mother, or a father as a father. But if you think this is just the first time, then you have to kind of work it out instead of saying, oh, you did it to me last lifetime, and I'm going to punish you this lifetime.
So we choose to forget.
We choose to forget. And then later on, as we evolve, then as souls, we become interested in, wait a minute, there's way more to me than what appears, and I know I was alive before this lifetime. For example, I think I wrote in the book, I have a nephew. When he was 5 years old, he told his very Catholic mother that when the mother was going, gee, I'm so glad God sent you to me, And he said, no, God didn't send you to me, send me to you.
I chose you.
Yeah, I chose you. And she goes, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you know, when we're in spirit before we're born, we choose our parents. Didn't you know that?
I know. I loved it. I love this. And I know, I believe in that too. And when I read it, I say, oh my God, he's speaking my language.
Exactly, yeah. And when I was sharing that story with someone, my son, who was at that time, this was many years ago, at the time, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, younger son, he comes up and he says, yeah, well, before I was born, I was in this room and I was choosing my parents, and he went through the whole thing too. And every time I've said that story in front of little children, almost every time some kid will come along and say, oh yeah, well, when I was before I was born, this is what I was doing. And everybody will have their little different experiences of how they came into this incarnation.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. And I find this more and more. And I'm bumping into more and more young people, not just little children, but young teenagers and young 20s, where they have so much more recollection of having been in spirit, going through things before they came into this birth of this lifetime.
Michael, I'm afraid we are approaching towards the end, but I have few more questions to ask you.
Sure.
I could talk with you for hours, but I would love you to be my guest again and speak more.
Sure.
But for now, I have to ask you this burning question that I have.
Okay.
And you are known by many as great spiritual healer. Yet you have had your share of difficult health challenges and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Why do healers get sick, and is there any way that they can avoid it?
Yes, that's a great one. A lot of times I joke around, especially when I'm addressing a lot of healers in my class, which I tend to attract. Most of the students who come to study with me are great healers, whether
Right.
they are aware of it at that time or not. And so a lot of times I tell them some of the sickest people in the world are healers. And the reason for it is not because healers are bad people or anything. The reason for it is, number one, healers are healers, not because on a personality body level, but healers are healers because on a soul level they're committed to helping others in many, many different ways. And like, many times people think of healing as curing the ill, but really healing is so far bigger than that. Healing is about the whole evolutionary process of a soul returning to oneness and realizing that here in the body. And so healers, above all, deep within their own souls, care about the suffering of others. And so that makes it very easy for us to take on the ills of others, because we see, some person who is a lot less fortunate than we are, and our hearts go out to them, and we don't want that other person to suffer so much. And so then, before we're able to find our clarity and let go of all the unconscious, judgments and expectations and resistances that we hold within ourselves, we want to help them. Well, of course, nothing wrong with that. But when we do reach over to try to help somebody else in a way where we're trying to take their suffering away from them because we can't bear to see them suffer, then where does that suffering go? We take it in.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and
so isn't it some kind of energy that you can just blow it away instead of taking it on your own body?
Absolutely. And this is the thing, I'm going to use Jesus as an example again. He said, take the log out of your own eyes before you reach in to take the sliver out of your brother's eye. And that is something I've practiced all the time. Every day, my whole time I've been a teacher or healer, that's what I try to do all the time with people. And when I am addressing a particular person, I look to see what is matching within me that they are having a trouble with. So if a person's in pain, I find, here's a matching pain in myself. If a person is very angry and upset, there's a matching anger and upset in myself from the past. And so when we bounce off of another person, we often discover things within our unconscious levels that we didn't know before because it was unconscious. But when we're relating to somebody on a deep energetic level, those things that are held usually below our consciousness rise to the surface, and we become aware of it. And I'm going, gee, I have the same thing they have, except they have it so much more. Mine might be just 2%, but theirs is 70% of their life. And so as I'm helping them with their 70%, I'm releasing my 2%.
Michael, I want to listen to you so many more hours, but we are running out of time.
Okay.
And I would like you to mention your website and how people can get in touch with you and all this kind of stuff, because, okay?
Okay.
So please, what is your website address?
Our website is www.michaeltamura.com. That's MICHAEL, T as in Tom, AMURA.com.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. And you've done such a great job, and I would like you to be on my show again, but I'll be talking with you right after the show.
Okay.
And thanks so much. And thank you to all our listeners. And all I want to say is that next week we are going to have another person also about healing, but this healing is through dance and movement and pure joy in motion. So, and the title is Let's Dance Together by Jennifer Jimenez. So please tune in for our next week's show at the same time. And this is Leah, your host from Waves of Healing, signing off today. See you next Tuesday. Thank you, everybody.